We have been going back and forth on all of the connections between Hidden Road and major players in the world of finance because we know that ever since the acquisition with Ripple, Hidden Road continued to expand rapidly. And even today, we know that this connection with Hidden Road and Ripple is much bigger than just an acquisition. It was a strategic play, and it does revolve around tokenization. Now, the interesting thing about this is we know for a fact that XRP and the XRPL will play a significant role here. How do we know that? Well, it's very simple. If you go to Ripple's website, on the front page, if you click the tokenization link, it takes you immediately to a page where it breaks down how they are tokenizing on the XRP ledger. XRP and the XRPL are a big piece of the puzzle here with Hidden Road. But I want to go over a few things before we really get into all of the juicy parts of this acquisition. Let's start off with this post here from Matthew Lenoy, which is Hidden Road joins the ICMA, the International Capital Market Association. The race to digitally transform the global capital markets is on. And yes, we know that this is the case. We've been talking about all of the connections with tokenization, even going back to the SEC, confirming that, hey, guess what? We want to support tokenization in a big way. We know that this is going to be the next big revolution, essentially. And when you have players like the SEC supporting this, we know that the market is opening up in the US. But here we have the new ICMA members in June of 2025. By the way, look at the names here. Okay, number one, we have the First International Bank of Israel. Number two, Franklin Templeton. They have been tokenizing like crazy. They just surpassed over $800 million. Next up is Hidden Road, SMBC, and then, of course, a few other names. And, we have Wells Fargo. So major banks, major asset management companies, and then Hidden Road. Very interesting. Over here, we have the ICMA FinTech Advisory Committee and related groups. So we have the FinTech Advisory Committee, the Common Domain Model Steering Committee, the DLT Bonds Working Group, the Bond Data Taxonomy Working Group, Electronic Trading Working Group, Artificial Intelligence and Capital Markets Working Group as well. And then we have the FinTech Directories down here. So they have, it's kind of crazy to look at this. Like, they have an ICMA Distributed Ledger Technology Regulatory Directory as well. On the bottom, you have DLT and blockchain and bond markets. Like, this is telling us exactly where we are headed. We know blockchain and DLT will be plug and played into almost every single financial market out there. And when we really kind of see that, all of the assets that are traded within these markets will also be on chain. This is how we get to 24/7, 365 trading. Now, I wanted to bring this up because we also know that Hidden Road became a partner, essentially, of the DTCCs back on March 11th of this year, 1 month prior to the acquisition with Ripple. And the subject here was new participant in the netting system of the Government Securities Division of FICC, Hidden Road Partners, CIV US LLC. Effective with trade date Friday, March 14th, 2025, firms currently participating in the following services of the Government Securities Division of Fixed Income Clearing Corporation. And again, this is Hidden Road. The significance of this is the fact that the DTCC is moving on chain in a big way. Just recently, we got a few big updates from the DTCC, which I will go over. But first, I want to go over a few things behind the DTCC. So this is their 2024 full report, right? We could see their total revenue, all that kind of stuff, right? What's crazy about this is they also talk about tokenization in a big way within this full breakdown. But if we go up here, we could see the total value of securities processed in quadrillions of dollars, $3.8 quadrillion. By the way, look at how much this is growing. 2 years ago, 2022, 2.5 quadrillion. 2023 was 3 quadrillion. 2024 was 3.8 quadrillion. Imagine when all of this is on chain, how fast this is going to scale because of how fast everything will be settled. Think about how much money is out there in the world right now. If we're seeing $3.8 quadrillion being moved and settled by one name like the DTCC. By the way, we could look down here. We could see accelerated settlement, affirmation rate. Then we also see the changing ecosystem, digital assets, which by the way, you can click this and it'll actually tell you exactly what they're doing around digital assets. They are also fully embracing tokenization in a huge way. We've been talking about that for a bit of time now. Here we have advancing modernization as well. But it's just crazy because it's like we don't have to sit here and speculate on if we're going to see, you know, this space become 10 times bigger than what it is today or 100 times bigger. Like, no, this is a name that is moving $3.8 quadrillion per year. Okay, and this number only grows, and they are fully modernizing and advancing their back-end system using DLT and blockchain. And again, we already know that they're partnered up with Hidden Road, which could be exposed to even Ripple since Hidden Road is now acquired by Ripple. But also on top of that, we just saw the DTCC announce that they have $100 trillion in assets under custody. Their central securities depository surpassed $100 trillion on June 18th. Then we also got this update. This is with the FICC. Let's go back. Here we have. This is a new participant in the netting system of the Government Securities Division of the FICC. The FICC's GSD has reached a new peak volume, processing $11.8 trillion in daily volume, marking a new one-day record. This was on July 2nd. This was processed on June 30th. Very interesting. Now, on top of this, we just witnessed a huge update from the DTCC, which was in the Great Collateral Experiment. We executed a crypto native derivatives trade in Tokyo backed by USDC, a digital cash equivalent. It highlighted our Collateral app chain's interoperability, automation, and institutional readiness. Now, I don't need to tell you guys that recently USDC was announced live on the XRP ledger. This is great to see. But I only wanted to bring this up because I know that everyone will say, all right, well, they're using USDC, so that means that Ripple is dead, right? No, this is just an experiment, but it's the fact that they did execute this and it was fully successful and they used USDC. I wanted to bring this up just to show you guys that the DTC is fully involved with crypto now. This is a crypto native derivatives trade. This was also a part of the announcement from Finality, which collaborated with the DTCC and demonstrated how an on-chain settlement of central bank reserves can fully leverage the potential of institutional tokenized assets. And this was all a part of the DTCC digital launchpad. And here we actually have the announcement of the path to digital asset adoption, the DTCC digital launchpad. This was using, USDC. I would argue that this could technically utilize almost any digital asset. It could use RLUSD. It could pretty much use any stablecoin. But the fact that we're starting to see a player the size of the DTCC moving on chain, utilizing crypto assets, talking about tokenization, addressing everything that we've been talking about for years, it just goes to show you that we're almost getting out of the whole idea of we're extremely early to all of a sudden we're going to see everything accelerate in a very fast way. A player the size of the DTCC launching something like this, it should 100% get your attention. Now, I bring all of this up because we want to go back to Hidden Road. Just recently, at a Singapore press conference, and big shout out to Paul Barron for this, Brad Garlinghouse announced that Ripple's stablecoin RLUSD will be accepted as collateral for all services at Hidden Road. RLUSD is the first stablecoin enabling efficient, large-scale cross-margin trading between virtual assets and traditional markets with 24/7 year-round availability. I want to go back to the DTCC real quick, because when we think about what's going on here, okay, they used USDC. That's great. RLUSD is probably the only stablecoin in this space that is specifically catered to institutional players. That is a very big thing to focus on. Why? Because the DTCC is an institutional player. Even Finality is technically an institutional player. All of these moves that are being made with these big names, it's all institutional plays. I'm not saying that RLUSD is going to be the only successful stablecoin. I just do think that we should look at RLUSD in a different light compared to USDC or pretty much any of these stablecoins in this space. RLUSD is on a completely different level. But the best part about this is, as an XRP holder, we know that we are getting exposed to almost all of this because USDC can easily be settled and moved on the XRP ledger for transactions like this. But the craziest part about this is that the DTCC has now gone live with crypto native derivatives. They are now executing crypto native derivatives. This is something that we talked about going all the way back to 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020. It's now reality today. Now, to build on top of this Singapore press conference announcement with Brad Garlinghouse, we also got this. Senior Director Engineering at Ripple explaining collateralized lending on the XRP ledger. It's very clear that Hidden Road was a strategic acquisition. Check this out.
What do we do next? What other value could this drive? So I think that this is where some cool things are. So collateralized lending is pretty cool. So just to give you an example of what this part is, imagine if, again, capital efficiency here, you're a company who wants to be able to put through 20 million, 30 million. I see this a lot in startups. It's like you can make this unit economics make sense up to a limit, and as soon as you start hitting the bounds of actually the cash that you have on hand, cash starts becoming really important. If you can't actually move this through, what you actually want to do is go through people like prime brokers. What they do, and actually what you can do here, you can deposit assets so you will not have to liquidate them. You can actually get loans that collateralizes off that. So I've wanted to do $5 million in trading and payments. If I had $1 million in Bitcoin, $1 million in XRP, and I was able to hold that without actually having to sell it and to trade it, and then being able to be lend off that, and then having the settlement process where you can actually recycle it. This is a really, really strong thing. And again, this is why prime brokers exist. This is their business model. I think being able to do this on chain, I think this is pretty cool. And for me, if you have the payments network with the rails, this is what OTC desks cannot do. They can have FX, they can do this quickly. They can even give you some collateral. They don't do third-party payouts. So for me, combining these things together, I think this is pretty cool. This is a new model.
And yeah, listen, when we look what's on the screen, right? Like, look at what's on the screen right now. We have collateralized lending on the XRP ledger, leverage programmable escrow, treasury and liquidity management for enterprises, multi-currency treasury optimization using on-chain FX and real-time balance routing, tokenized real-world assets and private markets, FX plus compliance rails for tokenized securities, debt, and commodities. Let's go back real quick to the DTCC because guess what they are settling? $3.8 quadrillion in securities. What are they trying to do? They're trying to bring securities on chain. They want to tap into DLT. They want to tap into tokenization at scale. At the same exact time that we see Ripple acquire Hidden Road gets a partnership with the DTCC back on March 11th. And now we have, tokenized securities coming on chain for the XRP ledger and a full breakdown of what they're unlocking with the permission DEX. I mean, at the end of the day, a lot of this is aligning perfectly. I don't believe in coincidences. I personally believe that XRP and Ripple are going to be tapped in a huge way around a lot of these major moves that are happening currently. You know, everyone will say, I don't believe it. There's no way. You know, what kind of nonsense is this? It's the same people that said the same thing about Ripple becoming a bank. And then guess what? We get Ripple applying for a banking license. And then also the same people that said that this case is never ending. All of a sudden, Ripple withdraws its appeal. We're just waiting on the SEC to withdraw their appeal, and then the case is over. So all of these people that are out there saying there's no way, I don't believe it, this is not going to happen, this, that, whatever, they're all going to be silenced as well. But at the end of the day, the Hidden Road acquisition was already documented to supercharge XRP's utility. Smokedog did post this multiple times. We could even see the strategic motivations behind this. This is full-scale institutional finance player. They want to become a full-scale institutional finance player, and that's exactly what this move helps Ripple do. This is going to be tapped in around trading, custody, financing, and clearing to hedge funds and financial institutional players. This could supercharge XRP's utility as well, because again, when we think about what is happening on the XRP ledger right now, it's all based around institutional DeFi offerings. This is where we start to move away from the, small scale retail things that have been happening around the XRP ledger for, years now, to a much bigger, piece of the global financial system. And they are already going to plan to leverage the deal to scale its RLUSD stablecoin. We can see that clearly from what Paul Barron is giving us here. Used by Hidden Road as collateral and integrate post-trade activity into the XRP ledger and Ripple payments. At the end of the day, I'm very excited about this. I think that this is going to be huge, and I do think that it ties back to these big players like the DTCC because we already have exposure to them. I'm focused on this in a huge way. I'm also focused on the other connections that we have with, like, for an example, the ICMA. Also, the ISDA that Ripple did join back in the summer of 2023, I believe. Guys, these connections should not go unnoticed. They are so valuable to focus on even today, as we are starting to see these markets moving on chain and these big players like the DTCC also moving on chain. This is a once in a lifetime opportunity. I strongly believe that the retail sector that is involved in this space now, that's not getting frustrated, that's being very patient, that understands the long game here, I believe that we will be the new 1%. I also think that we will really kind of reap the rewards of being so early in the space, even before we actually have regulation. So with that being said, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did, definitely leave a like, subscribe, turn notifications on because of more free content. You guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord in the description below. And with that being said, guys, thanks for watching. Peace out.